hexagon.
Dimethyltryptamine, commonly abbreviated to DMT, is a psychedelic drug that has skyrocketed in popularity over the last few years. But why? Psychedelic drugs are hardly anything new. The use of examples such as LSD and magic mushrooms has been commonplace now since the major drug explosion of the 1970s. After 50 years of mass usage from underground culture, the effects of said drugs are thought to be well documented and understood. When one takes a psychedelic drug, they hallucinate visions from their own mind, very similar to that of a dream, except that it takes place in an actual conscious experience rather than that of the subconscious. It is generally accepted that the conditioning of someone when under psychedelics is nothing genuine, but just one's mind playing tricks on the user. This general acceptance, however, seems to drastically plummet when DMT comes into the equation. Almost all well-known psychedelics are potent, but DMT is on the next level. Much like how politics can be split into both economic and social categories, the DMT experience can be separated primarily into two of its own: realms and entities. We shall start with realms.
You're not there anymore. You go to a different place, you experience a different reality.
The emotion is indescribable. If I could bring this thing across, it would end human history.
When someone consumes DMT, they describe a sort of out-of-body experience in which one's mind is separated from their physical body and advances into a whole new plane of existence. This is noteworthy, as many psychedelics are known for simply causing illusions in the world as one usually sees it, rather than being a complete replacement in its entirety. This strange realm, or realms, are described in different ways by different people. Many describe the realm as a seemingly chaotic mess of strange shapes and patterns with seemingly zero logical ties to the laws of physics. Others describe the realm to be much more orderly and similar to our own world, but still drastically different, with buildings and other human constructs. Some even describe it as both, with it rotating between the two, or sometimes being one, and then the other. Whatever the case or context, almost all consumers of DMT describe such places in extreme terminology, with it being either one of the most beautiful places they have ever seen in their lives, or the most horrific. Regardless of the verdict, however, most are in agreement that such DMT realms are so unbelievably strange that when spectated, people can never look at our Earth the same way again. Answering the question of what these realms actually are concretely is a difficult one to ponder, with no solid answer. It is still, to this day, a mystery. However, multiple theories have arisen to attempt to provide an explanation. There are three main popular theories: the scientific theory, the religious theory, and the psychological theory. All three theories have a different understanding of what the DMT realm actually is, but all of them are fascinating in their own right and could be correct. Let us start with the scientific theory. Human beings, in a way, are a sort of biological version of a computer. You, as of right now, are watching this on either a desktop, laptop, phone, tablet, whatever, but certainly something mechanically based with an intelligent operating system of which, through a graphical user interface, you have given the order to watch this production. All computers contain components, such as central processing units, random access memory, motherboards, so on and so forth, which work together to keep the entire system running as intended. Human beings are similar in that we also share components, called organs, that work in the exact same way. Humans are, in a way, machines, simply based on a different framework, biological rather than mechanical. We are designed, however, to evolve and ultimately survive. Whatever you believe the origin of humanity to be is ultimately irrelevant. Whether the most zealotous religious person or a hardcore atheist, the fundamental fact is that whatever made us has an intelligent design beyond our understanding. Humans are not just random blobs of chaotic nothingness. Life has a thread that evolution weaves. Our senses all have a purpose, designed to help increase our survival. Our hands are designed to pick things up to help us commit to action. Our eyes are designed to see things to assist in survival. Our ears are designed to hear things to prevent us from becoming prey. We are all, over the course of thousands of years, finely crafted beings. But humans also have a fatal flaw, in that we believe that just because we cannot perceive something right before us with our very eyes or our other senses, then it must not exist, which is of course untrue. There are numerous different rays and frequencies that we cannot see with our eyes or hear with our ears, that exist despite the fact that to us they seem not to. For example, in order to watch this production, it is very likely that you, right now, are connected to the internet. Yet you cannot see Wi-Fi signals connecting your device to your router with your eyes alone. This is because human eyes did not evolve to see a Wi-Fi signal, as whatever intelligent design is behind our manufacturing did not see it as a worthwhile addition to our species. Instead, choosing to spend resources in actual useful features that would assist in our survival when such was a common worry. In other words, the human operating system is not designed to see Wi-Fi signals. Yet, of course, we know that Wi-Fi signals do exist. We have manually created technology with mechanically based operating systems that have the ability to tell us when we have a Wi-Fi signal or not. In essence, the point is that just because something cannot be seen with our eyes or heard with our ears does not necessarily mean that it does not exist, but that our limited human senses simply were not designed to see or hear such from an evolutionary biological perspective. But if one accepts this as fact, another question is presented. What exists out there that we cannot see or hear that is actually there, but we lack the capabilities to comprehend it naturally?
Look at this. Look at this. Language that is completely alien to us.
There is a concept known as the third eye. The idea being that humans, under the right enhancements, can actually unlock a sort of hidden or perhaps manually crafted sixth sense that allows us to see more than intended. The concept of ghosts, spectral beings that wander the earth, is often related to such an idea, in that ghosts may exist, we just cannot see them. Relating to the DMT realm, the relevancy of this idea seems obvious. What if DMT is one of these enhancements that unlocks the third eye? This brings us to the concept of dimensions. We have all heard of the first, second, and third dimension. A line, for example, is a first-dimensional object. A square, a second-dimensional object. A cube, a third-dimensional object. But what, if anything, is a fourth-dimensional object? We humans perceive the world in the third dimension, as that is ultimately the maximum capacity that our perception grants us. But as already stated, just because that is the limit of mankind's capabilities does not necessarily mean that is all that exists. If there is a fourth dimension out there, even if exposed to it, we would not understand in the slightest what we are witnessing, if we even could at all. This correlates with the fact that most people who visit the DMT realm often exclaim they see strange shapes and patterns that seem to make no sense. It may not be so much that they make no sense, but that we have no way to make sense of them. Like giving an ant a tuxedo, it isn't going to understand what it is, or why it would want it. It should also be noted that visitors to the realm often say that not only do they see strange shapes and patterns, but advanced ones too. They say that they are so advanced, in fact, that there is no words in human language to describe how they look, which would also correlate with the concept of a fourth dimensional spectacle. Ultimately, the scientific theory is that humans, under the potency of DMT, have the ability to see parts of the universe that we were not designed to see, but still actually exist. Even if this is true, what the realms actually are, however, would remain a complete mystery. The religious theory takes quite a different approach. In many Abrahamic religions, such as Christianity, Islam and Judaism, there is a concept that upon the death of your physical body on earth, a conglomeration of your consciousness and character known as the soul survives and advances to a higher dimension in which your mortal life is thereby judged. If judged to be someone of a morally good character, you enter the realm with God, known as heaven. And if judged to be someone of morally bad character, you enter the godless realm, known as hell. How this relates to DMT is actually rather fascinating, as there is in fact one time in your life whereby DMT is released naturally by the brain without any form of manual intervention on a massive scale. When we die. Upon death, the brain, as a last-ditch protocol, douses itself in DMT. This could be where the idea of near-death experiences comes into place, whereby people report seeing flashing before the eyes, so on and so forth. Why the brain is doused in DMT before death is a complete mystery. Humans feel pain to manipulate us into taking action to preserve our health. The idea that the brain would choose to cancel that out and instead give us an alien experience rather than fight tooth and nail to the very end to survive seems illogical from a biological perspective. Yet it happens. One of the most reported traits of DMT by users is the feeling of an out-of-body experience, as stated earlier. This and the fact that people seem to advance to some sort of higher dimension seems to correspond with the religious idea of life after death. My kingdom is not of this earth, indeed. But this presents us with a philosophical problem. In religious texts, it is stated that one can only enter heaven if you are of morally good character. But what happens when one finds themselves in the higher dimension of judgment, when your mortal body is still intact? Surely you cannot be judged, as your life is not yet finished. Thus you cannot enter heaven. So where then does someone who has advanced to the higher dimension, but is still alive, go to? There is only one place by default: hell. Many people seem to have a misconstrued view of what heaven and hell actually is from a religious perspective. Many people seem to believe that heaven is a paradise of pure bliss and joy, whereas hell is a place of eternal suffering, whereby people whom were moral or immoral during their mortal life must be praised or punished for all time. But this is not actually scripturally accurate. Heaven is intended to be a place whereby those whom have followed the rules of God get to be with Him. Hell, on the other hand, is a place for people who choose not to be with God to still exist, just without the constraints of rule, order, or morality. In essence, heaven is a place for people who are willing to submit to order in return for a just and pure existence, whereas hell is a place of ultimate freedom but also anarchy, chaos, and of course, sin. The idea behind the religious theory is that when one takes DMT, they are given a showcase of hell. Hence why the place seems to be so strange, chaotic, and messy. Critics, however, will say that the religious are simply bending reality around their ideology, but in truth, however, the true fruit of the religious theory has little to do with the looks of the realm itself, but the entities within, of which we shall discuss later. The psychological theory is much more down to earth. The idea is that essentially DMT is nothing more than an extremely potent psychedelic, and that all journeys in the so-called DMT realms are naught more than a leak of the subconscious mind into the conscious mind that are so realistic that we view them as actual other dimensions, when they are but illusions. We, as humans, like to think of ourselves as a singular entity. I am me, you are you, that is that. But in reality, this is not really the case. The human mind/operating system is split up into two distinct parts, the conscious and the subconscious. The conscious is what you believe yourself to be. It is your thoughts, likes, dislikes, dreams, so on and so forth. But what of the subconscious? This strange partition of the human mind exists, but we cannot access it directly. We know that it stores information, we even know that it uses such information at times, but we have no idea how to control it. Our subconscious mind is even active around the exact same amount of time as our conscious mind, as we spend almost half our lives snoozing. It is almost as if the human body takes turns at who is in control. When we are awake, it is the conscious mind, you, but when we snooze, it is our subconscious mind. And what it does, or why it does it, is a mystery. The concept of the subconscious mind leaking information to the conscious mind is a possibility, and it is possible that DMT could be one of the routes to such a merger. The idea behind the psychological theory is that when one consumes DMT, they are witnessing visions from the subconscious mind for a temporary amount of time. Similar to a dream, but you are completely conscious while experiencing it. It must be stated, however, that this theory is by far the most unpopular with people who have taken DMT, as such people are adamant that the experience they had was legitimately real. American podcaster Joe Rogan once discussed this at length on his show, The Joe Rogan Experience.
It's real easy to dismiss and say it's all in your imagination. But for someone who has experienced it, it's very difficult to accept. And it's very difficult for you to say that you know for sure that it's all your imagination if you haven't experienced it. I appreciate from an intelligence standpoint someone's perspective on it that hasn't experienced it, but the reality is, until you know what you're talking, until you've actually gone into that thing and know how titanically alien it is, you're really just saying things. You're just making noises with your mouth. There's no way you could know. You're not there anymore. You go to a different place. You experience a different reality.
More real than what we normally interpret as reality.
That's the most fucked up part about it, is it's so much crisper and more vibrant and brighter, and then reality itself seems muted in some odd way.
The idea is certainly a possibility, but as knowledge of the human brain is so limited, it cannot yet be proven. To conclude the realms, the scientific theory believes that the DMT realm is a physical higher dimension that we do not usually have the ability to see using our human senses. The religious theory believes that the DMT realm is a spiritual higher dimension, assumedly hell, that we go to by default as our mortal life has yet ended. The psychological theory believes that the DMT realm is not more than an illusion that is caused by a leaking of the subconscious mind into the conscious mind. But there is, of course, the other side of the DMT experience that is somehow even more bone-chillingly bizarre. The entities. People who take DMT do not just admit to spectating vistas of chaos, but also meeting actual other life forms within these realms, known as entities. These entities come in all different shapes and sizes, behaviours, characteristics, so on and so forth. But almost all DMT users report that these entities, whatever they are, absolutely seemed real to them during whatever interaction they had with them. Despite there being many different entities, there are in fact some common beings that an overwhelming amount of people report to have seen. By far the most well-known of all the entities is the so-called clockwork elves. Resembling a sort of golden garden gnome, these entities are known to build and showcase their creations to people. Terence McKenna, one of the most well-known psychonauts from the 20th century, who was one of the first to discuss DMT entities in mass media, had this to say on the clockwork elves.
You are instantly plunged into an environment of elf intelligence. Self-transforming machine elves, I call these things, or types. It's not clear they are made of matter. They are made of light. Their status on the phylogeny of biology is extraordinarily murky. And they come pounding forward like badly trained dogs, cheering. They say, "Here you are!" 20 seconds before, you were in an apartment somewhere with your scuzzy friends doing drugs. Now that's gone. And you are in this place, being confronted by these entities. And one of the things they do that's quite disconcerting is they come jumping up or dribbling up to you, and then they will sort of vibrate in place, then they jump into your chest, then they jump back out. But the main thing is they are doing something very, very interesting. What they're doing is the reason I call them language elves is because they possess an ontos of language that is completely alien to us. They use a language which you can see. They can condense meaning before your very eyes. For them, syntax is not acoustical rules, it's pictorial rules. And they are doing this. They will scramble forward, elbowing each other, jumping up and down, very excited, and they say, "Look at this, look at this." And they pull objects, sing objects into existence and show them to you.
Another unique and by far more strange entity is the so-called sinister jesters. These jesters look like clowns and are known to make fun or humiliate people within the DMT realm, almost sadistically.
Reality dissolves and you're there. Like the last one that I had was very strange. Like there was these jesters that were giving me the finger. They kept giving me the finger. I'm like, what is this about? And there's this weird fractal thing that's constantly going on. But every time I do it, it seems like these lessons that are wrapped up in these visions with communicating entities, whatever the fuck they are, whether they're figments of your imagination or whether they're real. There's always lessons in there. They look like jokers. They have like Joker masks on. And they give
You
the
see them
finger.
when your eyes are open or your eyes
Yeah.
are closed?
Your eyes are closed. You see them way more visual. The visuals are way more potent than anything you could ever see with your eyes open. They give you the finger. They're spinning around, giving you the finger. And they
Spiteful little
change.
bastards.
Well, they're having fun with you. They're letting you know, like, stop. I think it's their way of telling you not to take yourself seriously.
What do you
Like,
think?
Look where we are. Like, you take yourself seriously, dude. We're in another dimension, and we're fucking mocking you.
But of all these entities so far, they have been a sort of species, many in number, but there is one entity that is seemingly singular, known as the Blue Lady. This mysterious woman is known to almost look after visitors of the realm and treat them well, using musical instruments to send massaging vibrations to people and show them great spectacles, but does not like to be ordered around or requested for. DMT enthusiast known online as Shaman Oaks once detailed his interaction with the Blue Lady as starting off to be incredibly positive,
If you ever seen a tanning bed and how they're vertical lights, that's the way it looked like, except the lights were horizontal and they were colored. They were white, yellow, pink, and orange. And they were all curved. I could see all the way down my body. Then I felt this female presence. It was kind of like a white ball misty thing. And she was right up here to my right. And she was just hovering there. And she could sense my excitement. I'm like, I want to get blasted out of my body. Like, I'm communicating, like, I want to go, I want to get blasted. And she was like, relax, it's cool, you're gonna go, but not yet. I need to prep you for this. I need to prep you for this journey. She takes one of the lights and it curves, like there's no hands or anything, but I can tell that she's doing it. One of the lights curves off of the arch and then starts touching me on the side of my face. And I can feel the warmth, and it kind of radiates through my face, and she just moves it and just kind of goes down my neck, and it's very soothing, very comforting, but also kind of sensual in a way. She starts blowing on the sides of my neck, just again, very sensual, very relaxing, very cosmic day spa-y. That's the way I have best to describe it, is that I'm in a cosmic day spa.
What any of these entities are is a mystery, and there are many more we have not even discussed. But each one of the three theories has a different way to view them that may pose the answer. Humans have always believed first contact with alien life would be in the form of some sort of spaceship visiting us, or us visiting some primitive species using our own. But as the scientific theory believes that the DMT realm takes place in our physical universe, just in a higher dimension, that would mean that technically, those whom have taken DMT have actually been in contact with extraterrestrial life already. Could it be possible that much like how bacteria lives, but has an existence that is totally incomprehensible to humans, and vice versa, the DMT entities also have an existence that is much more complex than our own? Hence, why we cannot understand why they operate the way they do. Aliens may not be little green men with big heads after all. What if the traditional idea of an alien life form is actually just that? Alien. And that the real cosmic beings out there exist in a completely different dimension to our own. The scientific theory therefore does not bother to attempt to comment on the individuality of entities, as their existence, if this is true, would require an investigation to ever truly understand. The religious theory believes that the DMT realm is a spiritual higher dimension, probably that of hell. The immense chaos and anarchy of the place only supports this, but in terms of the entities, such a belief is extremely easy to understand. If it is true that the DMT realm is a place for souls rejected by God to exist, then the entities within this realm would be mostly, for lack of a better term, demons. One of the most ancient stories across the three Abrahamic religions is that of Lucifer, Satan, or more commonly known as the devil. In the story, Lucifer was an angel of God who was told to bow down before the humans, God's ultimate creation. But Lucifer refused, saying that the angels were superior and thus should not be forced to serve the humans. He then went on to gather other angels to join his cause to rebel against their creator, God. These angels became known as the fallen angels. In the tale, it is said that Lucifer has wanted revenge against mankind for replacing the angels and takes advantage of the free will of man to convince them to turn their back on the word of God and ultimately join him in hell. And when one takes a look at some of the entities within the DMT realm, it certainly seems accurate to call them demonic, with the jesters perhaps the most outstanding. From the many tales of people interacting with the jesters, it almost seems as if their primary directive is to demoralize humans to embrace ultimate freedom and steer away from any form of order or morality, essentially to instill a form of nihilism. They do this by making fun of people, teaching them so-called lessons, or simply outright telling them this as fact, baffling them with vistas. Regardless of what one thinks of the jesters, they certainly do not fit the description of heavenly creatures. Even so-called polite entities like the Blue Lady also have a dark side. Shaman Oaks, during his first few trips to the DMT realm, had a wonderful experience with this lady. However, during his latter trips, the mask slipped.
See her again, I wanted to hang out with her again. So the third time I smoked DMT/Changa, I am alone in my house and I'm in my bedroom. I take 3 really big hits and I close my eyes. Immediately when I close my eyes, it's different. Coming into my vision, there is this inky, grayish, red, brown smoke just kind of coming at my face, just kind of coming like this, just kind of being really weird, really dark, kind of angry, but nothing magical, nothing beautiful about it, kind of disgusting. So I keep saying, I want to see the girl. Let me see the girl. Where's the girl? Over and over again, I just keep saying that. And the more I say it, the angrier and the darker and the more kind of violent the smoke gets. I keep thinking to myself, how can I have had such a magical, colorful, wonderful experience, and now I'm in this dark, black void with inky, angry smoke? To me, it doesn't make any sense. The thing that I learned from that trip was, you're not in control. And you better come in with respect, and you don't tell it what to do. You go in, you show it a lot of respect, or it will make you learn respect. And then she said this.
You need to bring more people to me.
What? Well, can I tell them about you?
No, I'll tell them.
Huh? I can't tell people about you? Do you know how crazy that makes me sound? Hey, you want to come smoke this? There's something there, but I can't tell you about it. She'll tell you. Who's she? I don't know. Smoke it. Smoke it. So here I am in this predicament. I am not allowed to post anything online. She tells me that I'm being selfish, that I need to bring more people to her, therefore I need to share my DMT, but I'm not allowed to tell them about you.
Why would the Blue Lady want more people to be brought to the DMT realm? Why would she not want anyone telling people about her? There is an ancient demonic woman known as Jezebel and her succubus followers that may explain such hidden agendas, prone to charming men, only to feast on their misery later when their guard is down. Perhaps the most overwhelming evidence of DMT entities being demonic is from the Aztecs. The Aztecs of South America were a civilization well known for performing absolutely sickening mass human sacrifices of not just hundreds, but thousands of people at once. But why? The Aztecs were known for often visiting the DMT realm and were assumed to be taking orders, but orders from whom? The only explanation is the DMT demonic entities within telling them to perform these evil acts. The psychological theory believes that the entities are such creations of the subconscious mind, essentially the exact same as when one dreams, just more vivid as you are fully conscious. But therein lies the question. If one's mind is conjuring these entities, then surely they would be tailored to the individual. How is it that so many people have reported visiting the exact same entities? Surely, as everyone's mind is individually different, the entities too, assuming they are being spawned from there, would be also. A researcher in this topic by the name of Jennifer Like decided to visit a well-known DMT enthusiast website and put together a mass survey regarding the entities. Her findings were actually that the types of DMT entities people reported were incredibly different to the usual mass well-known ones I listed earlier.
So the main questions in terms of what are the categories of entities that emerged in the content analysis, these are the relative proportions, and I tried to condense the categories as efficiently as possible. The largest category were entities that were fundamentally poorly defined or unclear. And so that obviously could be for two reasons. Either the person's experience of the entity was not yet clearly defined, or they just didn't report it very clearly in their trip report. So there's two possible reasons why that might have occurred. Humanoid entities, and this is in terms of the adjective, were the second most common group. Divine beings, aliens, elves and fairies was number 5. Animals and insects, geometric entities or machines, entities that were just voices, just faces, and then a miscellaneous category. So in terms of frequency, the poorly defined category was most frequent.
Perhaps the only reason why people so commonly see the clockwork elves, the blue lady and the jesters is because of prior research done on the topic.
In terms of interactions, there were a wide variety of interactions. The most common one by far was entities showing, teaching, or guiding the users. Second most commonly, there was no interaction, hostility, warmth or love, welcome or excitement, reassurance or encouragement, observation or neutrality, play, power and control, sexual interactions, interactions that were unclear, the entity questioning the person, the entity reminding the person, and then another miscellaneous category. So in terms of what are the entities doing with people, they're primarily showing them, teaching them, and guiding them in terms of their trip experience.
The research may add to the psychological theory's legitimacy, but even if the theory is true, it doesn't actually answer the question of what the DMT realm and entities are, but only creates more questions. Why is it then that under such substances, humans experience such illusions? If this is truly all one big biological ruse, then the answers to these questions could help us in understanding the human mind better, and perhaps even bring us closer as a species to our true origins. One of the unique thoughts in regards to the entities is the lessons they apparently teach the DMT users. If it is all biological, then this would showcase that the subconscious mind actually has thoughts and a personality of its own that differs from that of the conscious mind. This would mean, as scary as it may sound, we are in fact two people in one body. How else could the subconscious teach the conscious? A very scary thought, indeed. To conclude the entities, the scientific theory believes that the DMT entities are actually a form of extraterrestrial being, as must be accepted if we assume that the DMT realm is merely a higher dimension of our physical universe. The religious theory believes that the DMT entities are demons designed to demoralize humanity and bring us further away from God by instilling nihilism into the visitors, tempting them to bring others in a form of sinister pyramid scheme. The psychological theory believes that the DMT entities are just representations of our subconscious mind, trying to communicate with the conscious mind and are not actually living creatures. Now, if you've made it this far, I have to give you some credit. You are clearly an open-minded individual and likely a deep thinker. So well done. However, regardless of what theory you view valid, if any at all, there is often one thought that comes into the uninitiated mind regarding DMT. I should try this out. Wait. If you want to do DMT, I am not your father, I can't stop you, but take some time to at least consider what you are about to do. In our modern day society, there are two types of people when it comes to the topic of DMT. People who are typically more conservative will outright dismiss DMT as a load of nonsense and will not take the time to research into it at all, grounding themselves stone-headedly in reality. People who are typically more liberal will fully jump headfirst into DMT, take it, and then try to convince everyone and their mother to take it too. In a way, both worldviews are understandable, but also incredibly flawed. The liberal thirst for curiosity is admirable, but those of a more conservative persuasion may too have a point. There is a reason that the three theories are just that, theories. We don't know what the DMT realm or entities actually are. DMT is a topic that needs to be discussed widely, en masse, by the general public. Inquiries need to be taken into what these experiences actually are and what they mean. But that does not necessarily mean that every single person should embrace such an experience. Most people struggle to deal with our reality as it is, being totally zombified by antidepressants, the cloud of nihilism, existential crises, so on and so forth. How could they deal with a realm that we do not even understand? Telling the average uninitiated person to take DMT would be like telling someone to jump in the deep end of an Olympic swimming pool when they don't even know the definition of an armband. Today we live in a world where experience is seemingly everything, where everyone wants to be the one to do things themselves, when sometimes it is better to sit back, research, ponder, and think. But the liberal viewpoint is also valid. The DMT experience is one of the biggest mysteries of mankind, and yet hardly anyone is talking about it. When you look on the news, all you see is small-minded human politics. How is it that people can have experiences so unbelievable and vivid, yet hardly any attention is given to them at all? It is almost as if the powers that be do not want the people to know of DMT, as to keep them small-minded, unspiritual, and controlled. So what's the solution? Whether it be through government programs or private companies, a small group of men and women without responsibility, who lack families, friends, and so on, should dedicate their lives to the research of the DMT realm and its entities. These individuals can be known as shamans, legitimate shamans. They would be put in sensory deprivation chambers and take numerous different doses of DMT, only to jot down their findings. As time passes, these documentations can be slowly put together by scientists and researchers, and eventually, piece by piece, humanity may actually find some answers to the questions pondered here today. Convincing random individuals around the world to take DMT does almost nothing. Creating a legitimate organisation that revolves completely around such research does. This is what psychonauts should focus on. Whatever theory is correct, if any at all, DMT is well and truly something strange. We can only hope that as time passes, humanity will one day conquer such oddities. Until then, however, sleep tight and don't let the DMT entities bite.
Hexagon.